everybody to the Farmington Board of Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, December 22nd, 2020. Item number 1, can everybody stand please for the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 is going to hold a public hearing and vote on an application for a new lunch wagon permit for White Fox LLC, owned and operated by Nikolas, located at 800 Fairbanks Road. I'll open up the public meeting.
Is there a representative?
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I mean, pretty much I'm just trying to reopen my business, so I decided just to make a food truck.
All right.
And just to mention, Mr. Is it Regas?
Regas. Yep.
Regas, you may be familiar, he had operated the White Fox Tavern, I believe was the name.
Yeah.
In the past as Greek food, so he's familiar to us. And just looking to make it mobile operation.
Just curious. And will you operate that at 800 Fairbanks Road, or you intend to take it around?
Worst case scenario, I would do it there. My property is zoned for commercial use. Right now I'm lined up Coldwell Bank, the realtor group. They have a space for me right there. Tumbledown has also offered me a space in front of their place, the brewery, and then Ambitional as well over in Wilton. It also would be catering on the side as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. But just hold on. If there's nothing else in the public, I'll close the public hearing. I'll bring it back to the table.
What are your hours gonna be?
Probably lunch through early dinner. Nothing crazy. 11 till 8. Just to see how it goes. Worst case scenario might do some breakfast, and coffee, and donuts, stuff like that. But mostly lunch and to-go dinners.
How many days a week?
Probably 5. Maybe 6.
Yeah.
Just do it myself, so nothing too crazy.
Good. I must say your food is excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. A lot.
Josh?
I have no objections to this, and I make a motion to approve it. And just a quick question, when do you plan on starting? That was an on.
Well, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Go from there. Sort out the menu and those stuff from there.
Wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll second.
It's been a motion and a second to approve the application for a new lunch wagon permit for White Fox LLC, owned and operated by Nikolas, located at 800 Fairbanks Road. Any other questions or comments?
I have one,
Yes.
and you may have said it and I couldn't hear with these things over. Where is 800 Fairbanks Road?
Is it 4? Right down past Old Town Farm Road? Like when you go over the bridge going towards Strong, like the
Who's the old antique store?
old antique.
Oh, so it's beyond the town farm road?
Yeah.
Heading towards Strong?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't familiar with that higher number, that's why I was wondering.
That's us. Curious.
It used to be, it's an old barn right there.
The Serendipity.
Yeah,
Antiques.
that's what it was.
Oh, sir, okay, Serendipity.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, just
Okay,
behind the
fine.
Farnsworth Farm.
Now I'm
Yep,
with you.
okay. I'm with it.
Thank you.
All right, cool.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
No other questions? We're ready for a vote?
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yeah.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move along to item number 3, is to approve Farmington's share of the 2021 Central Maine Media Alliance / Mount Blue TV budget.
JP's here tonight, I didn't recognize him with the hat on.
Yeah.
And the mask. But he's presented his budget, you have copies of it. Looks like the total income is projected at 134, 261.63. Those, I didn't see Wilton check if that's an accurate number for the.
Yeah, rounded to details.
Yeah, so we did receive that check the other day, and last week, I think, so that is accurate, and he's projected his expenditures out here, so it looks like it'll be a little bit of a surplus projected, and with that, I guess, let JP speak if you'd like.
Yeah, so basically, come before you like we do every year. The TV station's been doing pretty good as far as we're just now kind of coming out of the pandemic. Well, we're still in the pandemic, but providing coverage of these meetings. We're also providing coverage of the county commissioner meetings now. And Tom Saviello has started back up his Talkin' Maine show. So we're able to have guests in our studio. So it's been rather interesting trying to navigate through this new term, but we're doing the best we can, and we've got some projects and ideas coming up for 2021, so we'll hopefully trying to learn how to operate in a new way, so.
You're welcome. Those requests to have the volume increased?
Josh?
Real quick, JP, I had a question in regards to, on your income side, where is the money that would be coming from Franklin County in regards to the live streaming? Would that be included in this?
No, we didn't, actually, I didn't actually budget for that. It would be under media services.
Okay, so is that what the 5,000 is? I can't remember what that amount came to. Remember you just started live streaming?
Yep.
And
Yeah, I think it was,
including that.
yeah, it was around 4, because they had increased the live closed captioning.
Yeah, so that would be under media services? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I so move to approve.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve Farmington's share of the 2021 Central Maine Media Alliance Mount Blue TV budget. Any other questions, comments? If not, ready for a vote?
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
All right, unanimous vote. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, consider requesting a waiver from the Bureau of Alcohol Beverages and Lottery Operations to allow for one additional agency liquor store license for Food City Grocery.
I received this request, an email on December 7th from Zachary Sklar. He's the CEO of Food City Holdings. And he pointed out, you're probably all aware by now, that Food City grocery stores had purchased Trenton's in the downtown and opened the store, operating the store. And he has requested the town to ask for a waiver from BABLO, I love that acronym, for an additional liquor license. They're based on population. We may have 4 agency liquor stores in a municipality with a population of at least 5,001, but less than 10,001. Those 4 slots are already taken here in Farmington. The law goes on to say that the Bureau may issue one additional agency liquor store license beyond those otherwise authorized by this subsection in a municipality with a population less than 10,000. The Bureau may consider the impact of seasonal population or tourism or other related information provided by the municipality requesting an additional agency liquor store license. And Mr. Sklar has pointed out in his opinion that the town meets those requirements for an exception on the basis of the fact that it is a jumping off point or major thoroughfare access to Sugarloaf and Saddleback for winter activities. And there's a significant influx to the lakes in the greater Farmington region for summer residents and the UMS population as well as significant in town. He points out that Food City has experience in running 5 other liquor stores in the state of Maine, and securing a license he feels will increase the chances for a viable long-term grocery store in the downtown. So that's the basis of his request. He suggested a draft letter that I modified a little bit. If the board wishes to pursue this request for a waiver, then that would be your call, I guess.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Josh.
So currently it's Walmart, Hannaford, Ron's Market, and Walgreens.
No, it's not Walmart.
No, it's not Walmart.
Walmart doesn't have one liquor
No.
license? No? Okay.
Hannaford does, the Big Apple.
The Big
across
Apple.
Across from Hannaford Drive. Ron's Market, of course,
Okay.
and Walgreens.
Walgreens.
Yeah, those are the 4.
And Walgreens, at the time, did Rite Aid have it? And then it passed through to Walgreens?
Yes, they did,
Okay.
yeah.
Because it used to be the Falls store had a liquor license at one point in time.
When they burned down, the Big Apple picked it up.
Okay.
Okay.
I knew it switched hands at some point.
Yeah, there you go.
I just trying to make sure I had them all right. But
Yeah.
So, I mean, ultimately, it's the state's decision.
Right, I guess another point, concern I'd have is, I think obviously that it's all priced at a certain point, and that's why they try to structure it based off the population, so that they have that set pay, so that each one of them makes a potential profit from selling alcohol. So I think if it grows too big, then it just dilutes the market, but maybe,
Right.
I think there's probably somebody here that could probably answer it a little bit better than me, but.
Yeah.
I think the only difference would be volume.
Right.
Yes, I can answer that for you.
All right.
Yes, it is based on population. I've went through this a number of years ago. Well, when I bought the store, it wasn't as easy as a simple transfer to get a license. They actually took our license away, and we had to be granted a temporary license. And I had to literally go down and compete and fight for the license that Ron's Market had for years. They have changed that a little since, just giving you a little piece of history. And there was technically 3 licenses in Farmington, and they did grant an additional license about, don't quote me on this, 6 years ago, for an additional license to come into town, which came into play down in Farmington Falls. I can tell you that when the Rite Aid moved from one side of town to the other side of town, they lost their license for a period of 1 year, and then they were able to get it back. In that period of 1 year, and I'll just tell you how the money flows here, in the period of that 1 year, just that one liquor license that the town lost amounts to about $75,000 a year in sales. That's not profit, that's sales. Okay? They got their license back, which is fine. They had Hannaford's, Rite Aid, myself. Every license that's granted in the area cost me about 50 grand, just for mine in sales. When the Farmington Falls store got it, it literally $50,000 gone overnight. That transferred to Big Apple. Since they've done that, there have actually been 6 other additional liquor stores that have been established within 6 miles of here. You've got New Sharon, Chesterville store, you've got 3 in Wilton, 1 including Food City, and 1 in Chesterville, 1 in New Sharon, and 3 in Wilton. Big Apple down near Steve's Market and Food City. Every one of those, we're all just competing for that same number. The dollars that you had mentioned were, the state basically allows us to make 10%, 12% if you really, really want to play the numbers really well. It's near impossible to have to cover the insurance and the storage fees on it at 10%. The only thing liquor sales have for us as a business is, floor traffic, people coming in to get that bottle of wine, bottle of liquor for their party or whatever, for their home cabin. There's no money in liquor. I don't have a problem with the state issuing another license to Food City. And no disrespect to Food City at all. I don't know if there's a representative here or not, is there? No disrespect at all to Food City. If the state wants to open it up, they gotta at least allow us to make some money. 17 to 25% is nominal in this industry. You can make a living at that. You can't make a living at 10%. I'm not in favor of granting a waiver. I didn't understand the question on the agenda to begin with, because it is solely a state-driven issue. I don't understand what the town can do other than give their yay or nay whether they'd allow another liquor store in the town of Farmington. It has nothing to do with really the town of Farmington at all, other than getting a parent's permission to do it, I guess. You know, I would have expected to have this argument in the state, at the State House or down at the legislature, because that's where this needs to go. And I will certainly be there for it. I don't think there's room for another one in town. We already have 10 in the area. How many pot stores do you want in town? I mean, you guys play with that number all the time. It's no different than that. And you know, I'm pretty sure I haven't followed that regulation because I don't go there, but I mean, I'm pretty sure you're doing the same thing with the weed stores. It's a matter of how many do you want in town. I think Food City, they got 4 or 5 licenses. Let them run out of town. I don't care. But you know, we're killing the small businesses in town by continually diluting our own market. We don't have a market left. It's pretty much diluted as it is. I don't know what else I can convey to you. It really isn't your responsibility requesting a waiver. I don't understand what's going on or what approach they're taking. I understand it's population driven, but I think we're already saturated. I can't convey any more, and I would pose, you know, voting to grant the waiver or even start the process. And if this guy wants to wishful think, you know, have him start in Augusta, and then I can get the phone call and go to Augusta and testify against it. This is not the place to iron this out. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could add to that, I think you're right, John. I didn't know what the process was. We haven't requested a waiver like this. I was approached by Mr. Sklar, and he asked if the town would request a waiver. But I mean, if you read the law, there's really no place in there for the town to do anything, and it seems like to me that he could approach Bablo himself.
He can, and that's what he would have to do, but it's the same thing. You have a right to regulate a pub in town. They have to get approval from the town before they can get licensed by the state. It's got nothing to do with liquor stores. It has nothing to do with it. Anytime I have any licensing issues, I don't call you and set a meeting agenda to do it. It's just, I have to go right to the state.
Of course, yeah.
So I think it's a mute point to be in regards to this question. I don't
It
think
will
you-
be, yeah.
Well, I've learned a little bit more about this also, because I've never been through this process.
Nope, I never have either.
Myself.
It's a beat-up process, I'm gonna tell you. I mean, testifying and applying for these licenses and competing for them is, it literally, it's brutal.
For 10%.
To get one and maintain it,
That's what surprised me.
brutal.
I want to be as business friendly as I can too. And I appreciate the sentiment that John offers, that likely have only good wishes for Food City also, but seeing what I've heard tonight and have read a little bit more about this, I think our step towards offering some letter of support is a little bit premature, and I would, how do I want to say that? I would pass over requesting the waiver at this point in time and allow them to proceed through the bureaucratic channels in Augusta for that. And if it comes back to us for further consideration, that would be fine. So I'd move to pass over.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second to pass over requesting a waiver for the Bureau of Alcohol, Beverages, and Lottery Operations to allow for one additional liquor license store for Food City. I'll have to agree with that myself. When I first saw this, my first thought was for every person, and I know it's fair business, but it's still, it is a lot of saturation in my, I do deal some with the marijuana industry, and you're right, we regulate that the same way. So this isn't any different.
Before you go, can I have one more comment? Just a quick comment. No disrespect to Food City at all, none whatsoever.
Nope.
But I don't think they're going through the proper channel.
Yep.
So I just, I don't think that's,
And this is all new to us, I mean,
Right.
obviously, we've never done.
no
this.
disrespect.
It is, and it's kind of surprising to me because they do have agency liquor stores,
Mm.
all, in most of their stores, or at least I know they have one in Wilton, I don't know where else. But it seems to me they would know the process by now.
Nick, any other comments?
I would just, before we vote, which I'm in agreement that we should just pass over this, but it's possible that they were looking for some form from the town saying that we'd be in favor of
And that's-
having
that could
another
be true.
liquor store,
Right.
which
Probably,
I've heard from, I mean, another local convenience store that's been trying to get a liquor license for a long time, and every time they go down to Augusta and they fight for it and they never get it, so.
Yeah.
I mean, at least, I mean, obviously Food City is a smaller retailer, so,
Right.
and some of the other big ones that just get them from moving into an area. Yeah, that's all.
Interesting. If not, we're ready for a vote.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
That was the yay times the yay for Passover, correct?
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah, I had to think for a minute.
What are those, yes means no.
Yes, means no, you confused.
Yeah,
Thank you, John.
thank you, John.
Thank you. You're crying about stuff, but Jesus, talking a lot of money.
Moving on to item
All right,
number
thank you.
5.
Yes, have a good night.
To accept the balance of $3,330 in COVID-19 grant funds to the public, to the police department for the purchase of future COVID-19 supplies or overtime in the event of an outbreak.
You remember when Shane was at a couple meetings ago, he had, he mentioned, and I'll let him give us the details, I don't have it in front of me, but it was the $8,100 that was available in this grant, and they wanted to spend some $4,700 of it for equipment that goes with the Virtua training system, I believe.
No, so this was back in August, actually. Jack talked to you guys back in August about this grant. I think it was August, anyway. I looked up the minutes for Lucy. And he did mention that it was an $8,100 award, but the board at that time, I think, missed that part and voted to accept the $4,700 for N95 respirators and filters, extra filters for the entire department. But the award was actually $8,100. So we are administering the grant for Franklin County this year. So us, Wilton, Jay, and Franklin County Sheriff's Department. And our portion of that is $8,100. So you've already voted for the $4,770. You just needed to come back for that other for the other $3,330 to make the whole award. And that will be for future supplies that we might have to get, overtime in the event of an outbreak, if to cover personnel and scheduling. And we've already had an opportunity to use some for a rapid test for an employee.
Good job. Josh.
Just out of curiosity, say you don't use the funds, do they have to stay in that?
We have up
certain
to
account?
2 years to use them, and
Okay.
I think if we don't use them in 2 years, I have given money back through a burn jag. I know we didn't spend all the money in a burn jag. It's just a form that I have to fill out, and then they
So they want. the
they
money
would
back?
absorb it back, yeah.
Okay, alright.
But we have until 2022 to spend the.
Alright, I just was curious what happened to the money afterwards.
Government wants it back.
Well, imagine. I'd make the motion to approve to accept the balance of $3,330 in COVID-19 grant funds to the police department for the purchase of future COVID-19 supplies or possibly overtime.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to accept the balance of $3,330 in COVID-19 grant funds to the police department for the purchase of future COVID-19 supplies or overtime in the event of an outbreak. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll have a vote.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item number 6, to establish a canine reserve account for emergencies, equipment replacements, and acceptance of donations and firm forfeiture assets for the canine.
Want me to start right in?
Sure.
So we did this when I came with the $1,000 Walmart grant, but Lucy wanted it to be separated from the grant. So I wanted to build a reserve line into our budget for emergency for the dog, replacement of equipment. One thing in particular that was in my mind when I was doing our budget was the heat sensor in the cruiser is $1,000, and if that breaks, that would be hard to find in the budget to replace that heat sensor. Vet bills for emergencies, and things like that, and to be in a place to park donations if anybody does want to donate to the canine program, which was, I believe, discussed at the very beginning. That was Sergeant Lyman and Officer Boyd that talked about funding the program through donations. And right now, we don't have a place to put those funds.
Would it be correct to assume that the funds are coming in?
Well, we've got the Walmart grant right now. We haven't had a donation yet, but it's not, it's been hard to get the dog out to
Right,
show
true.
people
Yeah,
this
that
year.
makes sense.
He has done also asset forfeitures that the dog is directly involved in. We have a potential with the case that we just recently had for some asset forfeiture that he was involved in finding some narcotics. So yes, that would be. We haven't had any donations coming yet.
Okay.
Yeah, any questions?
Oh, sorry.
In regards to the forfeiture assets, what do we normally average, you think, throughout the year?
Well,
I mean, if we didn't have the canine, if that was a,
it's not much each year. I mean, we've had a few years where it's been significant, but it's not much each year.
this would just would allow a portion of the assets? I wouldn't, I mean, obviously,
Well,
we don't want a lot of assets, because that means it's more
it would
fun,
be,
but
I would say that we do have right now we have a drug education and equipment fund where we put asset forfeitures in relation to drug cases.
Right.
But if the dog was involved in finding the drugs that led to the forfeiture, I would rather put those funds here to allow for, I mean, one bad accident and we're looking at thousands in vet bills that we don't have a budget for, which we'd like to be able to have so that in case the dog does get hurt.
It's been a few years since we've seen any forfeiture asset, and I've seen maybe a few $100s. Occasionally there's a vehicle that can be sold.
See, I think the last one was a couple vehicles. That we had.
Yeah, I do believe that's correct. There was a couple vehicles that we actually ended up trading in towards the new
Yes.
Ford Escape that we got.
Yep. I remember those guys.
And before that, it was several years ago, there was a case on Main Street. And then before that, the biggest one that I can think of is the one I was involved in back in '98. Several $1,000s. That's what started the Drug Education and Equipment Reserve Fund.
Man,
Yes.
I'm not opposed to it, I just was curious, like, what we're looking to have. I do recall that I did mention at one point when we got the K-9 to try it, and a little, had some reservation just because I didn't want to start growing a K-9 unit program that now all of a sudden we have 5 dogs. Because
Oh, gosh.
I know, but sit around long enough and involved in enough budgets that you see how one
Yep.
little thing we did here,
Mhm.
in 10 years, it's here, and it just, one little step. So that's just, I'm not saying it's a great thing probably to have, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I just, a little hesitation to see, just, it seems like a little bit more, so. But not that I'm opposed to doing this, because I think obviously we need to have a place for the dollars to go, so.
Mike?
So is this will be a new line item in your budget for this upcoming budget?
Correct.
It's not there now.
Correct.
So it'll be a new line, something reserve, canine reserve account.
Correct.
And then you will budget X number of dollars to go into that this year and or next year and every year following.
Correct.
That's the plan, right?
Right.
Okay, just so I understand.
Well, I think the amount that he would budget in his operating budget would be minimal, because the purpose would be to establish a separate reserve account that would, each year, if there's anything that's budgeted within the operating budget, would lapse to that reserve account along with any donations, forfeiture assets, and things of that nature to this separate reserve account, which could then be tapped for those expenses.
Yes. Go ahead.
How much is allocated now to the maintenance of the canine?
Right now, we don't have a budget line for the canine.
So then there are no expenses for the canine?
There are, and that's where we're taking them out of the regular line in the budget. I haven't had to pay any yet, so I don't know where Chief Peck took those funds from, which line, but that's, and one of the reasons that Officer Boyd applied for the grant from Walmart was, I think the biggest expense right now is food for the dog. He's had one vet bill. I do remember seeing one vet bill in our expenses that I got from the treasurer. I don't remember what line it was paid from, but so far, not a lot of expenses that we've had to pay out.
What does it cost a year, do you estimate, to maintain?
Without any accidents or any injuries, trying to remember what I pay for my dog for an annual visit to the vet. It's and then food, and that would be the barring any accidents, emergencies, injuries, anything like that, or equipment that might break or and I don't foresee this for a few years, but if we get a new canine car, the canine cage that's in that car may not fit into a newer model, and those are fairly expensive. We were able to retrofit a donated cage from Cumberland County for this cruiser.
So it's basically just the cost of keeping a dog annually?
At this point, yes. I do know he's in the vet, and I didn't even ask Ethan how we're gonna do that, but he was neutered today, so.
Okay.
So that, I'm sure that bill is coming.
Darn, you won't have any new recruits.
I know.
That's the end of the program. Josh.
What about training costs?
Training cost comes out of the personal wages.
Okay.
There is no additional, he gets, so by law, I learned, Officer Boyd is allowed a half an hour a day for maintenance of the canine, so what he's opted to do, and he's worked out with the sergeants, is he takes 2 hours off on his first shift of his set of shifts, and 2 hours on the last set of his, for canine maintenance.
Right.
I mean, he
Right.
maintains the canine every day, but
Right,
instead of
right.
doing a half hour every day, he gets 4 hours a week.
I get you, yep. I guess kind of off our line item here. In the budget, I think it'd be better if it was clear in like a line item, a canine line item of what it actually costs us, food, training, vet, and at least we know what it is. I mean, you might be taking it from here and here to pay for it, but at least if those line items might be just slightly to pay for it, whatever, but at least we could see what the
You know
canine
exactly
costs.
where the money
I
is
think
going.
up until the grant, I think Officer Boyd has been paying for the food out of pocket and has not requested reimbursement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it originally was set up.
Okay.
He would be not not exactly a pet of the
Right.
officer, but maintained mostly by the officer.
Because we made,
officer.
right, it was like some type of, the town agreed to,
Yes.
or we agreed that you could have the dog, we pay for a certain thing and.
Yeah,
you
and I
maintain
think
the
there
dog.
is a writing on that somewhere, a written agreement that I'd have to look back for.
I wouldn't even I would have to look in the chief's office, and I don't know where to start to look for that contract.
I can look for it, I'm sure we have it upstairs, it may have been in the minutes of the meeting if it was approved.
So then I guess maybe this line item would just cover, this reserve account would just cover that.
That's right. Got it.
Well, I'll make the motion to establish the K-9 reserve account for emergencies, equipment replacement, and acceptance of donations, and any potential forfeiture assets for the K-9.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to establish a K-9 reserve account for emergencies, equipment replacement, and acceptance of donations and forfeiture assets for the K-9. Any other questions or comments? My only comment would be, I'd like to see, in a year, roughly what, he does cost us, just so we have a breakdown and, it's something we're gonna need to know.
Absolutely.
Going forward.
I will have Officer Boyd keep track of that. Well, I'm sure he probably already has records from the time of purchase until now, so.
Yep, great. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 7 is to transfer $3,500 of held over Parks and Rec money, funds, and $4,000 from the 2020 Parks and Rec land and property improvement line item to the Hippach Field Projects Reserve account.
Matt's here for this and the next item as well, and I gave you a copy of the memo from Matt, and he can elaborate, but it explains where these funds are being reserved towards the replacement of the roof on the field house, which is, I don't know if it's original to the building, but it's in pretty bad shape and it's leaking, needs to be replaced, and the cost of that's gonna be about $28,000, I think, roughly somewhere around there,
Well, that was
last year.
like 2019 last year. Prices, who knows what they are now.
So we're putting some money from the Mills Trust towards it. He's also got these funds left over that he'd like to reserve.
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to transfer $3,500 of held over Parks and Rec funds and $4,000 from the 2020 Parks and Rec's land and property improvement line item to the Hippach Field Projects Reserve account. Any questions or comments? Josh?
Just looking at it, caught my eye. Is it a metal roof now? I couldn't remember. I was trying to picture it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I feel like I remember Steve saying it was about like 40 to 50 years old. I don't believe it's the original roof. I think it was something that was added on after. I couldn't imagine it would be the original roof, because it's over 100 years old now, so.
And it's,
That would be some roof. And it
Seems like
leaks.
I remember as a kid.
We're having a lot of issues with it. We have quite a few leaks.
Right.
There have been leaks throughout the years that we've tried to have fixed and patched and, have people go up and do work on it. But at this point, 2 winters ago, I noticed a huge wall of ice on the porch that was on the physical building.
Right.
And then the roof is like rotting. And I had 2 companies come to look at it, see if it could be repaired.
right.
Because it costs a lot to replace. And they pretty much laughed at me and said that they would not touch it, because they said they would not put their names on anything. They said that the nail holes
Right.
are like overly large and like seams opening, and they just said that they wouldn't know where to begin on that. They would not touch it. I haven't found anybody that would repair it anymore. So we've been planning for replacement using some of the Hippach, the trust, Mills Trust money, and then also supplementing with our budget, because it's going to be a big expense. And we're trying to make sure we have a little extra cushion, because we don't know how much roof is rotted and how much decking is because everyone gives you pricing for the roof plus decking. No one is saying this is how much it's good, because it's hard to tell until you rip into it. I
Right.
know that from experience.
Right, yep. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right, ready for vote?
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yep.
Right, yes, thank you. Moving on, item number 8 is to approve an expenditure of up to $2,400 from the Parks and Recs Equipment Reserve Account for the purchase of a new snow blower for use at the skating rink and the community center.
Go ahead, Ben.
Okay, so a few years ago, I don't think it was last time, I think it was the winter before, we requested authorization to purchase an airing snow blower. And that changed our lives, because we had, right now, like a 15-year-old craftsman and a 13-year-old craftsman. And I don't remember the horsepower range, but, you know, we pretty much fight each other tooth and nail to get to the airings first, because the other ones do not shoot snow very far. We've had them worked on, parts replaced. I mean, it's when you're doing as much snow removal by hand as we do with the ice rink and the community center ramps and like around the whole building and everything, with the pads all around, the Hippach skating rink and everything, it's not a super fun job when you don't have very good equipment to do it. Now, I think that the snowboard that we're looking at, similar to what we have now, is going to be around $1,900. But problem is, that was 2 weeks ago, and this time of year, snowblowers go really fast. And I don't know if that's going to still be available, and I don't really want to get into less expensive snowblowers because we use them. So I kind of prepared for it. The cheaper they are, the more they're usually sold out. So I thought it would be better for us to get a little bit extra in case we need it, but the plan is to spend around $1,800 or $1,900.
Josh?
And is that a good quality model?
Yeah,
Right, that would think will last us a long time, or could you use a little bit extra and buy a little bit better snowblower?
Well, I mean,
Well, I mean, if you're asking for 2,400 and you say you're gonna spend 1,800, it's, well, I mean, there's a little bit.
right,
I'd rather if you go spend an extra $200 and it lasts
yeah.
longer than.
Well, I mean, if there was one within that 2,400, if you guys were interested in me buying a little bit better one, I could look to see. I was looking at getting the same model as what we have now, because that one has worked out really well.
Okay.
It's been very durable and good so far. I mean, the only thing that I have heard is like, you know, the ones with the tracks on them are like what everybody recommends if you're doing more commercial use, that they're easier to handle. And I don't know how much of a difference they make, but those are typically the next step up in price, is to get
okay.
tracked machines versus tires. And then usually a little bit more horsepower and stuff, which horsepower is definitely helpful at the skating rink because you have to throw it so far. You know, if it gets too heavy, every once in a while we have to call in the highway department and beg for help when it's a nightmare down there, but, you know.
Right.
So you have money in your reserve account to purchase this?
We do! Can you believe it?
Good! And this number of 2,400 is a number that you put up there
Well,
to fit your needs for a snowball.
right, like I said, the one that we're looking at is around 1900. But I did check to see what other models were close, in case those get sold out, because I think it was last year, or the year before, I was going to come and talk to you guys about getting one, but when I called Hammond to get prices, they said, all we have is like a $3,600 snow blower, and I wasn't gonna come ask for that, because I felt like that was more than what we needed at the time.
Well, I've dealt with you in the past, and I understand that you're not gonna throw 3,200 up there if you don't need 3,200.
Yeah.
But as Josh was mentioning, if 24 is, I mean, I can't say we'll just leave it blank and you get what you need, but you know what you have, and you know what you've had in the past you don't want again,
Right,
but you don't know what's available in
right,
January of 2021.
yeah.
So I would make sure you get your bases covered,
Right.
is my only suggestion.
Yeah.
I can't do anything, I can't change the number, but I can, do you hear what I'm saying?
Well, I think you could. He's asking for up to $2,400. If you feel like you want to give him more leeway, you could vote a different number.
I don't think I understand what you're saying. I think Matt will figure it out quite well.
Yep.
I think he's got a good plan, so.
I'm confident he can go shopping without us.
I think so, and he's given himself a little bit of leeway after our discussion. So I'm gonna make the motion to approve an expenditure of up to $2,400 from the Park and Recreation Equipment Reserve account for the purchase of a new snow blower.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve an expenditure of up to $2,400 from the Parks and Rec Equipment Reserve account for the purchase of a new snow blower. Any other questions, comments? If not, ready for a vote?
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes,
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Unanimous?
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
You want pictures and a demonstration, Matt?
I usually post one every year on Facebook. It's usually pictures of us and videos doing that, so,
This is true.
yeah.
All right, moving on to item number 9, is to consider the adoption of a Public Works mutual aid agreement.
I want to give a shout out to Phil for taking the initiative to look into this, and he checked with other municipalities. Gardner, I think, was one of them, and this has been a topic, of course, with the COVID situation. There've been departments that have faced quarantines, situations where they've been really shorthanded, and coming into the winter months and snow removal, it's kind of scary to think that you could have your whole crew down either with the virus or in quarantine because one of them had it or had contact with someone who was positive for it. So this is drafted to deal, I think, with COVID mainly in mind, but it doesn't even mention it in here. It's more of any emergency that would, would require, or you could use the assistance from a neighboring community. And somewhat similar to the mutual aid agreements that fire departments have with each other. It just puts in writing what the process is, the procedure is to call upon the other community and who's responsible for workers' comp and all of those things, which are, liability, which are things that we would expect to see anyway in any sort of an agreement. And I will say that we had this reviewed and edited by the town's attorney, and if you've had a chance to read it over, it seems pretty straightforward to me. I think it's a good agreement. It's been sent over to Wilton as well, and they're aware of it, and my understanding and my feeling is that Wilton will be favorably inclined to enter into this agreement. They don't meet until after the first of the year, so if you approve this, the two original copies of agreements that I have here, I changed the date to 2021. And that would be filled in. So I don't know if Jim's here. I don't know, Jim, if you wanted to talk about it at all, or if you had thoughts on it.
Phil spent a lot of time online and stuff with all the directors across the state. There's been a lot of hours spent commuting back and forth talking on the subject, and I think it's a good idea. We've worked with other towns in the past, industry, we've let borrow trucks, we've plowed for Temple a couple of times over the years when they were down, or just to get the main roads open. I think it's a move in the right direction.
So this would be more of just a kind of a formality. It's something you guys kind of already do
Right.
as needed anyway,
Yep.
but it's just kind of just put it in writing. And,
Right.
Okay.
And it's gonna help if we get in a situation like this with the COVID and stuff.
Yep.
we're gonna need somebody to help us. We're short-handed now, which we are. We've already dealt with the COVID a little bit in that department.
Yeah.
I would make a motion, we authorize, give me the ability to authorize this and go ahead with it.
I'd second that motion.
There's been a motion and a second to adopt a mutual aid agreement with Public Works with the town of Wilton. This is a good thing for both towns, so, especially in today's climate. So, any other questions or comments? No, ready for a vote?
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Okay,
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
And I'll send around the signature page for 2 originals, and I just need you folks to sign at the top there, top right. And we'll get that over to you.
Okay, moving along to, where are we? Item number 10, to consider the application of Ed David to serve a 2-year term on the Budget Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You got Ed's application in front of you, and this is, in order to keep these terms staggered, I think he's, can't remember whose term he's filling out, it might be one of those minutes, but anyway, it would be for a 2-year term, and he's aware of that.
So moved.
second.
And a motion and a second to accept the application of Ed David to serve a 2-year term on the Budget Committee. Any other questions or comments? Josh?
Does that make that full?
There's still one more opening for a regular member, and then there are the 2 alternates that haven't been filled.
So it's closed.
It's close
The
to
best we've done in several years.
Yes.
It's good, it's a good group. I want to thank Ed for his commitment to coming in and doing this for us.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. Moving right along, item number 11, to consider the application of Wayne Kenny to serve on the Town Report Committee.
And you have a copy, Wayne's here tonight, and thanks for coming, Wayne, and you do have a copy of his application in front of you. As you know, Wayne's already on the school board and the budget committee. You do have a few openings on the town report committee. You recall there were a couple of resignations at the last meeting or so, and there's no term limit or no limit on the number of members that are aware of.
I make a motion, we accept Wayne Kenny on the board, school.
Town report.
He's got 3 more boards he can go on to.
Whatever board we got a hole for, we'll just stick him
He's got
in.
3.
It's already on those 2. He wants to be on the town report committee.
Whatever it is he tried to say, I'll second it.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to accept the application of Wayne Kenny to serve on the Town Report Committee. Any other questions or comments? I would say thank you, Wayne, for volunteer a lot of time in this town. It's very much appreciated.
Well, Dick said I didn't have to come, but there's 2 things. One is, I think if I'm asked to be appointed, I gotta show up. The other is, and perhaps more important, I am on 5 or 6 Zoom meetings a week. And I thought this is an opportunity to go to a meeting with his people.
Yes.
I just don't know what it's like.
But thank you for that. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yeah? Good. Thank you, Wayne.
And on the school board, no one calls us mister.
I'm sure.
I'm sure. Probably a few other things, but not necessarily.
Take care now.
Have a good night.
Good night, Wayne.
Moving on to item number 12, to schedule a special meeting for January 5th, 2021 to review the 2021 departmental budget request.
This is usually what you do, first meeting to review to get ahead of the budget committee. And as you know, they have all of their meetings every Wednesday in January, so they're scheduled to start their review on January 6th. And I'd like to have you folks see it, you know, before then. We'll have all the department heads come in. Nancy's putting the books together now, and we've got most of the figures that we need to get started. We'll be tweaking it some, but we'd like you to have a look at it with the department heads.
Right, so move to schedule that for January 5th, 2021, as long as it works for everybody else's schedule.
I'll second it.
What time is that?
Maybe a regular meeting. right?
Regular meeting time, I think usually is what you do, 6:30.
Yeah.
Budget committee's meeting at 6, but I think you do 6:30.
I think I've got something in the double check.
No, there's been a motion and a second to schedule a special meeting for January 5th, 2021 to review the 2021 departmental budget requests.
That's with the department heads.
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
All right. Moving on, item number 13 is to approve the minutes of December 8th, 2020.
So moved.
Second?
Been a motion and a second to approve the minutes of December 8th, 2020.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
Good. 14, discuss other business. Do you have anything?
Just a couple of personnel things. We got word, and I think I forwarded this to you today, that our newest officer, Riley Dow, is leaving already. He's going to the Waterville Police Department. So there's another opening there in the police department. I've just sent out an email today to the police chief search committee, letting them know where things stand. That I'll try to get together after the first of the year. The application for the police chief closed on December 31st, and right now we have 8 applications. 2 of them are internal candidates. 1 is a local candidate, and the other 5 are from out of state. And so in between now and first of the year, I'll be drafting some interview questions. We'll be sending out the applications to the committee for them to look at. I'll be asking them if they have any interview questions that they want to submit, and we'll look over the applications and decide who to interview at that point. So I think after, like I say, after the first of the year, we'll get things moving on this. And I know 2 of you were on that committee, so you will have gotten that email that I sent out today. That's about it, I guess, from here, other than to wish you all a Merry Christmas. It's going to be a wet and windy one, but
Sounds like it. All right, thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Fogg, think long and hard. It's the last time you get to speak this year.
Well, I spoke before the meeting, so I don't need to speak during and after, so thank you very much. And again, Merry Christmas, a good, happy, safe holiday to all of you.
thank you.
Josh?
One thing I have is wish everybody Merry Christmas as well.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you.
That's sort of about what I've got as well. Just stay out of the strong wind, and let's hope 2021's a lot better than what we just had.
Matt, I've got one quick question for Scott. What are you hearing from Augusta, Scott, as far as starting the process?
It's where putting the committees together, starting the training that, I think the 5th is why, I don't know if I can go to that meeting. But the committees will be meeting in committee rooms, a large committee maybe in 2 rooms, Zooming together. We're going to try to do everything as efficiently as possible. We're going to go in and tear down all of the bills, get rid of duplicates. Going to be in session minimal time. It'll be later in the spring. But it's going to be different. They're going to rent the Civic Center. Well, we do rent the Civic Center, what, $5,000 a day? It's all set up, they're not using it for anything else.
Yeah.
So when we are in session, that's where the House is gonna meet. The Senate will meet in the House chamber.
That makes sense.
But it's gonna be a matter of trying to do it efficiently and Zoom.
Yep.
And it's really, Zoom is kind of hard to work committees and, you do it for more interaction when you're trying to work something out than sitting at a computer looking at each other. But it's gonna be challenging.
Sure.
And then hoping to keep costs down by people zooming in rather than having to be there. But again, most people I've spoken to want to go to the committee meetings and interact because there's more done by off camera than on camera.
As always.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense.
So it's gonna be challenging. I really feel sorry for those new people who didn't get to be sworn in the chambers.
Yep.
It was just so sterile at the Civic Center.
Yeah. Sure.
But
Good.
we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Second.
Been a motion, adjourned, second. No questions or comments. So,
Okay, Mr. Smith?
yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.